Brilliant stuff. So hello everybody and welcome to today's strategy show and tell, and a big welcome to everyone who's new in the organisation. Hello, my name is Richard and I'm the lead user researcher here in ICT, and I've got my colleague Andrew of Hackney Star fame, as you might have noticed from the recent videos that are on the Chief Exec Roadshow. And Andrew is our junior apprentice. Say hello, Andrew. There we are.
Everyone.
Great stuff. So we're both from a team called Digital Design, I say based in ICT, and basically what that means for anyone that's new, and I'm a bit biased, but basically it means that we get to go out and we get to work with people. That could be members of the public, could be with staff or voluntary groups, and basically we have a chat with them and understand what it is that they need from us as an organisation, and then what we then do is we understand more about that, and then we test things out with them to see whether they do meet those needs. So as I say, it's one of the best jobs I think within ICT. As with all of our show and tells, what we do is talk a little bit about our missions, and this presentation is going to cover a little bit about our internet era ways of working, because we're using a new thing and doing it in a way that means we can reuse it. But ultimately, it also impacts on us as a team, as researchers, and so it also reflects the bottom on there, a curious expert team. But ultimately, we do all of this so that we design services that people prefer. As well as that, we've also got here our team values. So this is something which is new, and the whole team, the user research side of the team, have been working to understand what it means for us to be researchers. And all of our work is underpinned by our values, which are based on the corporate values, which are seen on screen. For us, this piece of work kind of focuses on the open and ambitious elements of our work. So I'm going to take you a long way back now to July 2018 and take you through a journey through Twitter, as it were, and my first day in Hackney Council. So this is when there was a time where you're able to get on a train, and if someone coughed, you wouldn't worry as much, which seems such a million miles away. And as you'll notice from the screen, actually, I was 4 minutes to go before I had to meet my induction session. So thank you, Great Northern, for making me late. But no, in general, this is when I first started. And ultimately, we've done a heck of a lot of research, even when I first started working with digital agencies, but also us within the team as well. And here's some photos to kind of try some of the research that we've been doing. Now, there was lots of brilliant stuff going on, and what it meant was that the products that people were working on were changed, iterated, so that they met the needs of the people that they served. The problem was that all this research was stored everywhere in team drives, and this is kind of a nightmare when you're new, like myself when I first started, to try and understand what it was that we've done research-wise in the past. And so basically, there wasn't a common way for all of us to have that kind of research so we can access it, which meant that there was a risk that we could do things and repeat them again. So if we started a brand new project, a new piece of work, and we wanted to understand what people needed, we couldn't look back easily enough and find out what we've done before. And that meant that we had a risk of duplication, but also that we probably weren't designing things in a really truly user-centered way. And that's just within us, within Hackney. That's let alone what was happening with all of our colleagues across the country in other councils. We all offer similar types of services, and at the end of the day, actually, we're all doing similar things. And so colleagues across other parts of local government might have had the same problems or found out similar things. And actually, what would be really brilliant to be able to do is understand that work as well, not just the things that we've done previously internally. So what we started to do is commissioned a project and worked with an organisation called Snook, who's one of our digital agencies within Hackney, to understand whether we can create something that could potentially help not just only us internally to understand the research that we've done before, but also to help colleagues within local government, especially seeing that at the time, and even now, still now, user research is still quite an emerging field, and it's more emerging than it would be compared to our colleagues in central government. So we had quite a big brief initially, and we did a bit of research, as you know, as you do, being a researcher. It's a bit meta, as you can see from the slide, but basically we did research with different colleagues in the organisation, but also with researchers themselves, to understand more about them and their job and the kind of things that they need to do as part of that job to basically tell the story of the user. whoever that might be at the time. So we did a heck of a lot of research with different colleagues to get to a point where we created a really rough prototype that enabled us to kind of start to store some of the great work that the team have done. And it ended up with something like this. So this is using something called Airtable, which is a bit of a, in effect, a clever Google Sheets, as it were. And what we started to do is put lots of bits of information in it, as you can see from the top of the screen. So you have guides and user needs and user groups and lots of bits and bobs that we thought would be useful for us to be able to reference by. The problem is then we tested this out with colleagues in the team who were on the call, and we kind of understood, did a bit of usability research to understand what it was like to fill this thing in. And to be brutally honest, no one did, because it was massive. And it's that balance between actually putting enough information in that it's still useful to reference, but then not make it too laborious that actually you don't end up filling it in. So we narrowed it down and we went down to a smaller version. And again, still lots of tabs and stuff on there. And guess what? Yeah, didn't fill it in. So we went down again and started to get to a point where we ended up with the prototype that you see today. And we switched on the alpha for the user research library at the end of 2018. Rather than doing a live demo, because I don't trust it, here's a video of what the library looked like at the time. So this is live on research.local.gov.digital. You'll see the search boxes on the left-hand side where you're able to search for bits for insight and for methodology that we've used. And then you've got a section here called collections, which are basically broad user groups where people can categorize their research. And then the idea is that it makes it easier to find. So for this category, we're going to have a look at a particular project, which in this case is Submit My Planning application. And you can see then some of the information about that. So it has everything from the people that are working on the project, the user groups that it affects, but also things on there to do with basically all the artifacts, the things that we create as researchers in order to tell the story, and also the methodology, so how we got to that point to tell the story. So that might be the questions that we ask. And here's an example of a discussion guide. So they're the questions that we might ask with a particular user group, and in this case, architects. It might be then user journey maps, then show the process that a person might go through as part of a service. But basically all that information is in one place and it's public. We work in the open, so it means that anyone can actually see that, and then not only us can make decisions based upon it, but also our colleagues and friends across other local authorities. So that was December 2018, it was quite a while ago now. And then, funny enough, when we switched it on, it blew up online. So we had quite a few people that were quite interested about the work that we were doing. And actually, the fact that we did it in an open way was amazing. The fact that actually no one else has done this before. And as far as we're aware, it's still the only user research library that's public around the world. And here's an example from one of my big fans. I love Lisa. She was the head of research at GDS, and also she's now the head of research at Altazam, who looks after Trello and things like that. And it was really lovely to kind of get a really brilliant reception from our colleagues across different parts of our sector. We also went international, which is brilliant. So here's a colleagues from the New South Wales government in Australia. They've got their design system, and actually they were also thinking about looking to do something in terms of a research library. And yeah, look, there we are, we're referencing there, which is great. Also managed to get colleagues in the Australian government that are interested, which was lovely, and also the New York City's mayor's office, which is great. So we are going global. So if Rob's on the call, which is a call out to him, so if things settle down in the world, and basically I'd like you to maybe pull out your credit card for a little bit of maybe in-person collaboration. I think that'd be great. But to be honest, I won't do anything less than premium economy, I'm afraid. So, but I think it'd be great if we're able to do something like that in the future, maybe. Seriously though, and maybe closer to home, let's take you all the way up to present day. And we've had 13 UK local government organisations use the library. So lovely people across all of these organisations on the slide have actually added research to the library and also given us their feedback and insight as to how we can make it better for them. So I know they're not on the call, but genuinely a massive thank you to them, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do what we've done. Research in the library is currently categorised by 16 collections. So they're those things that you saw on the right-hand side of that video, and they're the user groups. So actually that's expanding all of the time. And bearing in mind that we are in alpha, so it's still a closed group of people that we're trialing this with, in total, the number of pieces of research and research methodology, so that's kind of the journey of research that we've got, is, drum roll, 265 bits of research and methodology, which is brilliant. And all that research then means that people can then use that to help shape the decisions that they make to make things better for people. We've learned tons, and we haven't got time to talk about all of the stuff that we've learned in this time using the alpha that we've got currently live at the moment. I think one of the kind of the key things is it is really valuable to have all that stuff in one place, because it means that internally we have been able to steal best practice from certain projects, and especially when we work with colleagues in digital agencies. It's been really useful. And it also has helped us to challenge the way that we do things and the way that we've done research, but do that in a friendly, constructive way within the team. We've also had feedback from other authorities that have used our stuff. So they have used our methodology and the questions that we've used. And we've had colleagues from councils in Scotland that have looked at our planning information, planning research. So actually it is starting to shape how people make decisions. And recently, Sarai's been working on a project with our planning team and using research from our colleagues in Croydon. So again, it's that kind of, why duplicate the wheel? Why can't we use other things that other people have done, which is great. And a prime example of this actually was around coronavirus. So obviously a really quick emerging time where people were making decisions really quickly, and probably we didn't have as much user insight and user research as we'd wanted to, because we need to deliver, and that makes sense. So what we wanted to do is make sure that everything that we did do in terms of understanding what people needed across the pandemic, we published, and we invited others to do the same. So it meant that we can hopefully pull things together and make better decisions for people at that really important time. This is going to be the tricky bit. One thing we've learned is actually that the way that things are presented at the moment, which in effect, to be honest, folks, is a bunch of links. It doesn't really help a researcher tell the story about a piece of work that they've been looking at. And ideally, what we want to be able to do is, so if it was to be able to tell the story, we think it'd be easier for people that are external to understand what's going on and then get the best value from the research that's been completed. But also it'll help the researcher when it comes to their service assessments, because it means that actually they have everything in one place to be able to tell that story in a more coherent way. And so it'll be less administration, hopefully for the research in the long run, but also for any service assessors going forward. One thing around the collections as well, I mean, it's a nightmare in terms of taxonomy. So that's the thing that we know, that what we use to be able to categorize the research so people can find it. And there has been pieces of work with colleagues actually from the Australian government in terms of taxonomy, which we might be able to learn something from when it comes to us maybe looking at this in the future. And one thing that we know we need to do is kind of understand a little bit about the research and the artifacts, the things that we put up, whether or not if we put them in a more standardized way, actually people will end up getting more value for them again. So we know that there's still a bit of work to do in terms of what we present. And that's kind of underpinned by a piece of cross-government, local government user research led by Sam in the team across all of these authorities on the slide. And what we wanted to do is understand a little bit more about what user research is like within local government. And we found out quite a lot that actually it's still an emerging field, as we would have said. So we had a survey go out across different parts of the country, had about 50, 60 responses. People don't really collaborate in terms of user research at the moment within local government. And whilst local government people do know a lot about, what GDS does, actually in terms of the user research library, they've not really heard of it before. So we know there's a bit of work there that we need to do. Also, in terms of kind of, it's quite interesting to understand how researchers in local government, bearing in mind they might be new to the profession, but not new to local government, and how they then search for bits of information. And actually, researchers in local government tended to find previous research by the method that it was conducted. So, for example, show me all the interviews that have been happening, or show me all the card sorts or tree tests, whatever that might be, rather than the user group. And that's quite interesting. So that might be just because of where people are in terms of their career, but we know we need to iterate and change the library in the future if we genuinely want to do it in a way that meets the needs of researchers in local government who might be at a particular point in their career. ultimately, as I say, researchers need to be able to tell that story so that people can get the best value of their research. But also, we can't forget about the researchers themselves in terms of having that reassurance. There is a little bit of when you publish something to the library, bear in mind it's public, and I've done it before as well personally. You sit there and you push the button, and then it goes out to the world, and you think, you know, have I done it? Have I published a list of lots of people's names and addresses, or I haven't published anything that's sensitive or anything like that? And so there's an element of that, but also there's an element of reassurance about your work being critiqued. I mean, in academia, to be fair, people publish papers all the time, people kind of comment and critique them, but it's not something that really happens within our field, within user research. So there was a bit of learning around how we design something, so it does give the researcher that bit of reassurance that in effect they're doing the best thing. And all of this stuff that we've learned, we've been able to share, which is great. There's a group called Research Ops, which basically is a group of like-minded researchers across the world, not just government, but industry too, and that shares best practice about how they work with teams to make sure that user researchers can do the best job that they can. And there's I was interviewed for a podcast about that. Please don't listen to it. But there's a bit of information about the kind of journey that we've done. So hopefully we can help shape what others do too. At the moment, it's a closed alpha. What we want to do is, in the theory, be able to spread this out across local government, which would be amazing. But there's still a bit of work to do on that, even from a technical point as well. Even people creating their own accounts and things like that. So, you know, we know that's where we want to get to, but we're not there yet. But we think the time has come, and it'd be really great to tell you and introduce to you. A bit like an Apple event, maybe, the User Research Library 2.0. So the idea is that we are at the really, really early stages in designing what a new user research library might look like. There's only a team of two of us at the moment, so that's why it's along with Winston, who's doing some of the research. But what we wanted to do is give you a little bit of a taste as to what it might look like, and that's what Andrew's going to do right now. So I'm going to get off the slides.
Hello everyone. So I'm gonna show you the prototype now. So a friendly disclaimer that this is an early prototype, so the color palette, the styling component is not final. So you will come across some dummy data. So as Richard was saying, the goal is to design a product that tells a story. And so the actual research for the research library is where our user can understand what it is that they need to do on the admin side of the user research library and truly interact with the flow to the actual research process. So a lot of my design focuses based on the interaction design, not the whole user interface side of things. It's about making sure that this actually works. So as you can imagine, you're on the main user research library, and then you want to go and click and upload a new piece of document or update a new document. You will go straight to this first page, which is the start page. And again, you can see that I'm working on mobile. It's best practice because thinking about other environmental factors that, you know, not everyone has a 5-foot screen estate mobile phone. So I start small, more challenging, and then I can expand in the future. So the start page here had the elements. So it will have a short introduction to a list of things that most users will need to know what to do. So we're showing some short example of an introductory here, and then you've got a call to action button. But then we've got before you start, with like a friendly reminder for people who are already familiar with the research library or new user group. So we've got a whole list of what you need to do, so preparing them beforehand before that updating, uploading documents in the actual research journey. So as a user, I will read through that, happy with that, click start now. So here you've got summarize your research clearly in one line. And here we've got like a hint So it just helps you to think about what they might want to add at a really short description. So we've got things like avoid jargon and, for example, learning how we might help rather than affected by coronavirus. Write a few lines in, where click on that. Another aspect is imagine you're telling someone new about your work. So we've got two boxes. What did you want to find out? So you can talk about in a personal level. What we want to find out from the research we're uploading. What are the key things did you find out? So it could be a short bullet point of like keywords and finding by writing here. So it doesn't have to be so much. Next, obviously, start explanatory. So what stage is the project at now? So we've got a whole list from discovery to live. And then it could not be applicable to some. So we've got that option there. So click on alpha. Cool. And then what method did you use? So there we've got a list of common methodologies that we've adopted from the cross-government research side. So we've got a whole list here, but there might be more that might need to be added in the future. But this is like the most common list of methodologies, and I have none of about. So I'm going to click on usability testing. That's what I use. Click on that. So what is going to happen next based on your findings? So this is optional and depends where you are in the project, really. And one example could be like, we need to conduct further research into X. So it could be about a particular user group or different theme. Great, so I'll fill that in, click on that. Now this is the most challenging bit, the most difficult thing. This is the page where you got to add your research document. So here you can see a whole list of documents that's been uploaded in different pages. So if you are new, it might be empty. You might not have any of the listing, but this is just giving you some insight of what it might look like. So here's, let's say I'm going to add a new document. So I click on add, and then you go and add a research document here. Then we've got like a reminder of what you should and shouldn't add. So like things like what you can add to the document, then you might have a reminder where you say do not upload anything confidential or just like raw data, content form. So that's just a reminder in the accordion. So here you can just type in the name of the document and a short description of what the document entails. And then the URL would be a link to the Google Drive link. So you would put that in there. And then here you put in what pages you are at, so better and so forth. But when you type in a page, what I was hoping was you enter a page, and once you click there, it should populate into whatever page it is at on the main page. So you click on discovery, it will come up here, and then you can continuously upload all the documents in one page. And then you can see the arrow feature here, the functionality. Again, this is up in the air because it's not an app. So in an app, you've got a trailer where you can put your thumb on and push it up and down. Because it's not an app, that you've got to think of functionality that might just click and swap. So here you want to show each page and document into chronological order. And then it gives you an option to like look up whatever document it is, and then just click up or down. You swap in each document into the most recent or the first document to the last order. The grayed out space is inactive, so it's not applicable. Black elements you can click and swap down. You also have the option to edit your document. So this is a dummy, so you've got document, short description, Google Drive link and alpha, so you've got an option to edit when you go back. Once you're happy with all the list of documents based on whatever project you're working on, have a read through, all in good order, happy, great. I'm going to now submit. Now, it will inform the user that all the document is now uploaded onto the research library. You can now view or amend using this link to go back to your current thing. Once you're done, you should go straight to the main research library here. Cool. That's me. I'm going to stop presenting so to Richard now.
Thanks, Andrew. Just to say how incredible for Andrew to be able to design all of that flow and what have you. And there's lots of other bits that are still to be designed too. And yeah, it's generally quite exciting as the kind of stuff that we'll be able to maybe do together. So I'll bring you back to the slides very quickly. And hopefully you can see those. If you can't, please shout. So all the work that we're doing, we won't be doing this alone. We are going to be working in conjunction with other local authorities. So Winston is going to be our researcher and doing some research on those designs that they've just seen to understand whether they work for different colleagues in different parts of local government. We're hoping they might be able to work with some colleagues in central government, so particularly the Department for Education, who have actually got a user research librarian, but they haven't got a library yet. So what we're looking to do is understand whether or not they might be able to give us some people power so that we can hopefully make the code open as well, because one of the things we've always wanted to do, so if they can help us provide some people to do that, fingers crossed, we're having some further conversations with them and likewise with colleagues in HMRC as well. And we'll also share everything that we've done, again, with that research ops community that I talked about earlier. And this is one thing just to kind of finish on. So on the research library, there's a list of all the user needs that we identified for the next version. And we've got someone here, Jonathan, who is he's actually a contractor but works with colleagues in local government who used our user needs to then so he can actually build his own user research library. But then he then published his user needs, and they were brilliant, and they're a modified version of ours. So he used ours, he's changed them for his own purpose, and actually they're so good. What we're going to do is we're going to steal them back. So we're going to use his to help frame our next piece of work going forward, and that's just kind of the power of the research library in action, really. And we had some really lovely feedback. I mean, yeah, probably a bit too flattering, but to be honest, I must admit it's nice to get some feedback from people in the sector, because I don't really get that from my folks at home. Thank you ever so much for everyone for joining today. And any questions, please do let me know.